please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen. Cannonball!
Okay, 2 for roughing. Episode 31. Fast forward to episode 36. R.I.P. Matt Zuccarello. God, it makes me so sad. All right.
Look what I am wearing.
Yeah.
I did it for you, Zook.
I've retired the jersey.
I miss you.
I Shane Doaned the Zuccarello in my house for... All right, episode 31. It is the Carey Price episode, and this is a special one. It is live. We are broadcasting right now on YouTube as we break down a wild finish to the NHL trade deadline. And what started off as a pretty quiet morning, and I thought potentially disappointing, but man, oh man, did we finish off with a bang there at the last hour. And of course, some big moves and some big things that we're going to talk about in the episode. So, but first, good old Don Cherry boy, Carey Price, Canadian professional ice hockey player, of course, who has played his entire career for the Montreal Canadiens. And like this show, we started off on some bad knees. Took us a little while to get going there. And Nick, how are you doing on this? Nick, are you sad? Is that why your face is not on camera? You're so disappointed in the activities of today. And how are you?
I just can't. I just can't do it. I'm kind of like Hank,
Oh, come on! What a punch!
We lost a good buddy. We lost our friend Matt Zuccarello, and the Dallas Stars also lost Matt Zuccarello as soon as they got him. Zook played some pretty good hockey there to start his Stars career. Goal and assist.
Good.
Oh, by the way, fun little trivia factoid. Cam Ward has given up the first goal in Matt Zuccarello's NHL career, and has also given up Matt Zuccarello's first goal as a Dallas Star.
He has.
So when that becomes like a trivia night thing on for a Ranger game, you guys will have the answer to that. Who's the goaltender to give up Zook's first goal in Dallas and with the New York Rangers? And the answer both times is Cam Ward. I'm really happy as a Rangers fan. I gotta admit, as much as it sucks seeing Zook get shipped off because he's been such a huge part of this franchise, since he came back from Europe the second time. It really sucks having to see a guy like Matt Zuccarello, who clearly meant so much to not only the players in the organization, but even the front office members and the fan. Like, I don't think there's a Ranger fan out there that didn't like Matt Zuccarello. I think we all related to him because I think it goes back to the true underdog story, undrafted free agent, goes back to Europe because he wasn't making it over here the first time. Comes back again, and completely different player, ready to play, took the NHL by storm, and just, made New York his home. He became a fellow New Yorker, so it was really sad seeing him go. Kevin Hayes, as much as I wanted to keep Kevin Hayes, I was okay with trading him. I resigned myself to that fact that he was going to get dealt. I think we did really good on the Hayes deal. I think we did really good on the Zuccarello deal. I mean, when you look at what the Detroit Red Wings got for Gustav Nyquist, and Nyquist and Zook's numbers are pretty comparable, the Rangers actually got a better deal because they have the potential to get 2 firsts out of that deal, while Detroit only gets a second and a third, and the potential to get a second.
Look,
so
they're not getting
2 seconds.
Firsts. They're not getting 2 firsts.
No, they're not. I never said they were.
But you just said.
I never. Okay.
You just said it.
No, I said they had potential. You fucking fuckstick.
They have potential for one first-round pick if Zuccarello resigns.
Yeah, right. The Rangers
not getting to the Western Conference
because everybody picked the Rangers to make the 13-14 Stanley Cup final, right?
Come on.
Shut up.
Shut up.
Hold
on. Dallas would have to. First off, Dallas would have to make the playoffs. They're still battling just to stay alive. They've got Colorado breathing down. They've got Colorado all over them. I think Colorado's overtaken them now, or at least they're pretty damn close to it. So that's a team that, I think a couple of weeks ago we wrote them off and thought they were good as dead, and now they're showing that that's not the case. There's too many teams. I'm sorry, there's too many teams for Dallas to overcome, and the fact that now they don't have Zuccarello, that's a huge blow. You saw how great he fit in, even though he still had his Rangers jersey on underneath his Dallas Stars uniform during warm-ups there and getting ready to go. As Nick is starting, I see the eyes twitching a little bit, so I could see he's getting ready to start crying over there. Wow, your eyes are looking a little glossy.
I'm just fucking annoyed.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, nothing is impossible. I mean, look at what Vegas did last year, and look at what the Islanders are doing right now. But for them to think that they're going to get through Winnipeg, Calgary, San Jose, potentially St. Louis, potentially Vegas, potentially Colorado, that's a tall order. That's a tall ask. And you're figuring they're going to play Calgary or
Winnipeg looks really beatable right now. I don't know if you've been watching the Winnipeg Jets lately.
Well, I was at the game
They
last
do not
night.
they don't look like the juggernauts that they were at the beginning of the year.
They don't, but you know what was really weird? So I was at I guess we could kind of kick it off there, and then we'll get into our trade deadline talk a little heavier. But
let's kick it off like this. Fuck Shane Doan.
Wow, you are an
How
asshole.
you like that?
Why do you?
How you like that?
Why do you?
How you like
Shane
that?
Doan? I don't
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah.
You have absolutely no idea what Shane Doan means to the Arizona Coyotes and the Arizona hockey community. So whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But listen,
I don't care what Shane Doan means to the Arizona
that's
hockey
good.
community.
That's good for you. Good for you. I mean, hey, the NHL, Austin Matthews came out and pretty much said it. There's no Austin Matthews if it wasn't for Shane Doan and the Arizona Coyotes. So if you want to thank Shane Doan for anything, thank him for the fact that we got a player like Austin Matthews and the many others who are going to come out of Arizona eventually. Kind of like the St. Louis market that has developed some juggernauts. California, Florida. Hey, if you're going to thank anything. But,
I'm just kidding. I actually like Shane Doan, but I know how angry he gets you when I say fuck Shane Doan.
I thought he was, all right, separate the talent level of hockey player. He still had a pretty damn good career. It's more about the character of the guy. To me, I look at him and I almost see kind of like an Adam Graves type of guy.
He's not a Hall of Famer. Do we agree on that?
I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't necessarily think he's a Hall of Famer, but he's an icon in Arizona sports, and for a place that has very few things to look forward to, you've got your Luis Gonzalez. He was at the Shane Doan retirement ceremony. I did boo when he came out. Larry Fitzgerald, who is going to be probably the most revered sports figure in Arizona sports history ever. Kurt Warner was there. I mean, the list of people that went on and on that were there. Your best buddy Daniel Briere was at the Shane Doan. He had a phenomenal speech, by the way.
I heard Tyson Nash's speech was absolutely incredible.
It was fantastic. I actually I choked up a couple times during his. It was that damn good. I almost went Messier, and it's not that hard for me to go Messier. I almost did. So, phenomenal ceremony.
So was it Shane Doan night sponsored by Kleenex?
Yeah, right. No, it was no. But it was a phenomenal ceremony, and I got to say, for all the things that Arizona, the Coyotes have not been known for, they did a damn good job last night. Outside of the bobblehead looks nothing like Shane Doan. It's absolutely atrocious, but that you can kind of fix that, I guess. But anyways, yeah. So I saw Winnipeg last night, and I will say, I was not impressed. Laine does look like he's getting back to Laine of old, which is a good thing for them. He had a rocket of a shot on a power play goal, but Darcy Kemper robbed him left and right the rest of the game. But there is a glaring hole in that center core for the Winnipeg Jets, and of course they went out today and they addressed it by picking up Kevin Hayes. Phenomenal acquisition for the Winnipeg Jets, getting Kevin Hayes from the Rangers. So yeah, I do think Winnipeg could. It's one of those things where I feel like Winnipeg hasn't turned it on. It just seems like in that game they were turning it on in spurts, and in moments, and they could have taken over the Coyote game at any point. But then at the same time, I got to give it to the Coyotes. They came out and played a pretty solid game, and they're battling in there. I mean, 3 points out of a playoff spot. Who would have thought the Coyotes in the end of February, considering all the crap that's been going on, would be battling for a playoff spot, and they're in a heat of a battle. So kudos to them. But yeah, Winnipeg. Winnipeg looks beatable, but I mean Nashville looks beatable. Really,
I don't think so anymore.
But now they go out and get Wayne Simmons,
the best in the West.
They make some moves. They pick up Granlund from Minnesota. So I guess let's start with that.
By the way, can we just talk about the fact that Paul Fenton is just he just gave away one of his best players to his old team?
He's like Derek Jetering the Marlins or the Wild. I mean, I don't know. The Nino Niederreiter trade, I still don't understand that one at all. I don't get it. It just doesn't make any sense.
I don't like Kevin Fiala. I never understood the fascination with people about Fiala. I never thought he was that great of a player. I always thought he was, he's a middle of the road kind of guy. I never thought he's a guy that, wow, I really need to have him on my team for my team to be successful. I would take Michael Granlund in a heartbeat over Kevin Fiala. I feel like that was just a move where Paul Fenton's like, you know what, I'm going to help out the old squad.
Well, and that came up during his press call, which was kind of funny, where he of course vehemently denied that he was doing that, but I don't know. I don't know what Minnesota's doing. I really don't. The fact that they've been able to rile off a couple of wins here and keep themselves alive has been impressive for me.
Ryan Donato's been a shot in the arm.
I mean, yeah, they did make the trade, and Ryan Donato fit in. I mean, he had an instant impact. He had a Matt Zuccarello-like impact with his first game. I think, what was that, his first game with the Wild when he scored the overtime winner, or second game?
No, that was his third game. I think they're 3-0 with him.
So, I mean, but I don't know. He talked about culture and wanting to change the culture and do things, and I don't know. Maybe there's things that we don't know about Granlund, but I mean that's a career guy there, and that's a tough call to me. That's a tough pill to swallow when you're battling and you're taking on an unknown. I know what Kevin Fiala could bring to the table, but again, he had that major injury, that major leg injury, and hasn't really been completely the same. And I guess they're looking at contract and controllables on what they can own on the contract, as well as getting a little bit younger and maybe getting a little bit faster. Who knows? It could work out or it could backfire big time. But yeah, sticking on the Nashville side, Nashville makes that move, and then they go out and they get Wayne Simmons from the Philadelphia Flyers for Ryan Hartman and a 2020 4th-round pick. And I think that's, I mean, what else can you say about that trade? I mean, you're bringing in a guy like Wayne Simmons.
There is something oddly appropriate about Wayne Train going to Smashville.
Yeah, the Wayne Train's on a one-way ticket to Smashville.
Pulling into Smashville. So I like it from the standpoint of, Peter Laviolette's getting a guy back who he knows really well from his days in Philly. So, and it's a guy who, let's be honest, Nashville's power play stinks. And the one thing that Wayne Simmons is going to bring to you, he's going to go to the front of the net. He's going to tip pucks. He's going to make life very tough on goalies, opposing goalies. So you're going to get that, that edge, that little sandpaper that teams want to get for the playoffs. I really think that Wayne Simmons to Nashville is a hell of a deal. I hate the deal from Philadelphia's side. They got Ryan Hartman and I think a 4th-round pick back. That was, to me, you could have done a lot better, in my opinion. But I think Philadelphia's hand was kind of held to the fire because of what happened with Pierre Dorion holding the trade deadline hostage, because the Mark Stone deal literally went down 10 minutes before the deadline. So, I don't think it's right what Dorion did today, and I don't think a lot of people are going to talk about it. But Dorion, I think, really screwed over a lot of other teams by what he did. I think by what Dorion did, the Boston Bruins couldn't go out and really address. They had to settle for Marcus Johansson, not a terrible player, but I don't think that was Don Sweeney's first choice to add at winger.
Seemed like
I think he probably would have liked it.
It seemed like a weird acquisition.
I think Don Sweeney would have liked somebody else to bring in at wing, but I think a lot of teams were in a holding pattern because of they had to wait for the dominoes to fall with Mark Stone, and that's why I actually like what Jeff Gorton did today. He traded Kevin Hayes at about 10:30 this morning. He identified what team he wanted to work with. He knew what he wanted to get. Went out, got the best available package, and shipped Hayes off instead of waiting to see what Ottawa would do. Jeff Gorton handled his business early on the Hayes front.
But I think, in all honesty, to Ottawa, I mean, there was the talks about how there was a Calgary deal going all the way down to the wire last night that fell apart, and I don't necessarily think Pierre Dorion was sitting around, trying to hold anybody hostage. I think he was trying to maximize what he could get, and
I think he was definitely holding something.
Well,
I think
he was holding out in hopes of something more.
It's not the first thing. He did it last year too. They went Ottawa and Vegas went right down to the wire last year on Erik Karlsson, and
they couldn't work
supposedly, according to McPhee, Dorion was not so pleasant to deal with.
No, but I think Dorion's probably got the hardest general manager position in the NHL right now with what he's dealing with. And
he also made it that way.
He did have a hand in it. He did have a hand in it. So yeah, you'll never see me say, "Oh, I'm so sympathetic for Pierre Dorion," but I don't necessarily think he sat and held the NHL hostage, the NHL trade deadline by any stretch. I think he had I think he was working multiple angles, had multiple teams, and when things started to fall, he settled in with Vegas and probably was going back and forth and having a battle there. And
I don't think he's that good of a GM, personally.
I mean, he's still got.
I'm just gonna be.
But he's still.
I'm just gonna be honest.
We killed him for the Erik Karlsson deal last year, and what he pulled.
He got Erik Brannstrom at a second-round pick.
Yeah, Brannstrom could become a pretty damn good player for the.
I think Brannstrom's going to be a hell of a hockey player.
So I think that's a pretty good deal. I think it's a pretty good deal. I'm not disputing it.
I think he probably could have. If I was him, I probably would have wanted a first instead of the second, or at least a conditional first.
Yeah, but I don't think Vegas, considering what Vegas gave up, with the deals that they made last year, I don't think there was any way they were going with a first-round pick, giving it away.
Oh, I agree, but that's also Vegas' own fault. You should never have given up 3 picks with Tomas Tatar.
Yeah. So, but I mean, at the end of the day, for Philadelphia, I guess this is they had to get something. They're not making the playoffs. They're too far out. And they had to address it somehow, and they decided the change that they were going to make was going to be Wayne Simmons. I don't necessarily know if they had to make the trade, but then at the same time, I don't necessarily know if they wanted to spend the money to bring him back in. So, some other moves that we had. So, the one head scratcher, this one I don't really get at all, which was St. Louis. The St. Louis Blues picked up Michael Del Zotto for Anaheim for a 2019 6th-round pick, and that's I don't know. What does that do for you if you're St. Louis?
Gives you blue line depth, veteran experience. Guy who's been to the playoffs, been deep in the playoffs when he was a Ranger. That's pretty much it.
I mean, I don't look at anything impactful there. I'm sorry, but I mean, it's a 6th-round pick.
If you're expecting Michael Del Zotto to be impactful, then you're an idiot. So.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, on a trade deadline, usually you're going for something to make an impact, and I just felt like that was kind of a deal.
Not always. The Rangers in 2014, they traded for Rafi Diaz. They traded like a 7th or a 6th for Rafi Diaz. Wasn't supposed to be an impactful pick. It was, just you're adding insurance on the back end, which all these teams, that's what you hear at this time of year.
I just don't really know what insurance that is, but okay. So obviously the big one was Vegas picking up Mark Stone and Tobias Lindberg. All right, shipping out Erik Brannstrom and Oscar Lindberg and a 2020 second-round pick. I got to feel bad for Oscar Lindberg going from had a pretty sweet deal getting picked by Vegas in the expansion draft, and now he's gone from Viva Las Vegas to the frozen tundra of where outside of Edmonton nobody wants to go.
Where NHL careers go to die.
It's a pretty tough sell there for Oscar Lindbergh. Obviously we talk about the Nashville one with Granlund for Fiala. I still kind of scratch my head on that one. How about this one? The Vancouver Canucks getting Tanner Pearson from the Pittsburgh Penguins for Eric Goodbranson.
You know what that deal does for me? I'm just going to show you what that deal does for me.
Well, keep in mind,
right here.
Keep in mind, Chris Letang got hurt again.
The only thing I would like to see, and I would actually pay money to see it, I would like to see Erica Branson and Jack Johnson as a pair. Because that would literally be putting two traffic cones next to each other and watching them try to play.
Be like Neil Pionka and Mark Stahl.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. And then the Penguins went out and got Chris Weidman, who probably won't. I don't think he'll necessarily be a roster guy.
Chris Weidman's actually better than Eric Goodbranson.
He is, but I think if I'm right, who got hurt? It wasn't just Chris Letang. There was another, wasn't there?
Ole Mata's also out, I think.
That's right. So Pittsburgh's in trouble. So Pittsburgh defensively is in trouble. Now, again, Goodbranson, I guess they're looking at the physicality side of him. Maybe,
I'm going to go ahead and call it right now. The Pittsburgh Penguins will not be making the playoffs this year.
I kind of have a feeling that they won't. I kind of have a feeling that they'll fall out, and I think that's good for hockey. So, all right, another team that we thought, like we were talking earlier, that we thought they were dead in the water the last couple of weeks. All of a sudden, the Colorado Avalanche are alive and very well. They pick up Derek Brassard and a 2020 6th-round pick from Florida for a 3rd-round pick in 2020. So they basically give up almost nothing to bring in Derek Brassard to kind of help with that depth in the bottom 6.
I actually like this move. I think Brassard's going to be nice on the second line with Gabriel Landeskog. I don't know who that third winger, that third line mate's going to be, but I really like Brassard playing alongside Landeskog because I think Colorado had to break up the big line of Rantanen, McKinnon, and Landeskog because they had to spread out that scoring somehow. So I think having Brassard there is really going to help. And I think, you know what, it gets Brassard back into the playoff race and it gets him back into a top 6 role. I think it's really going to rejuvenate Brass, and we all know what, we've seen it firsthand what Derek Brassard can do in big games and big moments.
In the postseason. He's a postseason guy.
He delivers. So I firmly believe this was a really nice move by Joe Sakic. He didn't go out and sacrifice futures, serious futures. He was able to keep his roster intact and bring a player in, and who knows, maybe they keep Derek Brassard and moving forward. So I mean, we'll see where it goes. But
it's really a non-gamble kind of trade.
Yeah, it's you know what, if we make the playoffs, this is the type of guy that helps us in the playoffs, but we're not sacrificing anything to get there.
He could help them win a round. He really could. Is it a difference maker to get them to the Stanley Cup final? I don't know. The West, to me, is, there's people that say the West is incredibly weak and garbage. I think those people don't spend a lot of time outside of the Eastern Conference watching hockey because they clearly haven't watched much games out West. The Western Conference games and the Western Conference teams are beating the crap out of each other right now. So I think the only thing is if Tampa Bay can stay relatively healthy and get over the hump, they may have they're going to have whatever team comes out in the West is going to be beat up. So whatever team's coming out in the West has got to hope that Tampa gets beat up and falls apart somehow. And probably I would say maybe Washington doesn't find a way to get there because those are probably the two deadliest teams I would say right now in the Eastern Conference, and outside of Boston, Toronto, etc. Those could be big hurts. The one trade you mentioned earlier, the one that was kind of odd to me, and I thought maybe Calgary would make a pull on this but Marcus Johansson going to Boston. Well, it's not a bad pickup for the Bruins. I don't think it's a bad move by the Bruins at all. It's just kind of an odd. It's kind of a different approach for Boston, and I thought it was kind of interesting. They gave up a second-round pick this year and a fourth-round pick next year to the New Jersey Devils, who need draft picks probably as much as anything. So I was kind of surprised by that. I'm not surprised that Johansson was going to get moved, but just kind of surprised over the landing spot. Now, the two big ones. So, obviously San Jose got Gustav Nyquist from the Red Wings for a 19 second-round pick and a 2020 conditional third-round pick. But let's talk about the two big ones. So, first we're going to start with Winnipeg, because what I'm seeing out of this is that Winnipeg is rolling it all in. And they made a couple of moves. They didn't just do the Kevin Hayes deal by sending off an unknown asset, really, in Brendan Lemieux. They gave up their 2019 first-round pick, which I know is basically a glorified second-round pick, and a 2022 conditional fourth-round pick. Now, unlike the Zuccarello conditional picks, this one is actually not far-fetched. I actually do like the condition. I believe, what was it, to win the cup? Was the condition on that one? So, I mean, it's not unlikely. Winnipeg is probably one of the top, is the top three favorite to come out of the West. I'm sure it's probably one or two. So the potential is there for a player that's trying to get his bearings and get going, and Brendan Lemieux, and supposedly somebody, if he's similar to his father, could become a very easy fan favorite with the Rangers, and who knows what happens. Basically,
Ranger fans are gonna love Brendan Lemieux.
Basically, a second round pick, an early second round pick with the first round pickup, and then possibly a fourth round pick. So
unless we all get shocked and Winnipeg gets knocked out in round one.
I mean, they could. I mean, and the thing that's crazy is they could. I mean, I don't know. To me, it's a crapshoot between. To me, the West is a crapshoot with all the teams up there. With really the five, I think it's a crapshoot. I don't know. I really don't know. But they also made a couple other deals. They made quite a few deals, picking up defenseman Nathan Beaulieu from Buffalo, which I was kind of surprised that Buffalo made that deal. They then picked up Lindholm from the Toronto Maple Leafs for Nick Petan. And then, Columbus, they picked up Alex Broadhurst from the Columbus Blue Jackets for future considerations. They then got a defenseman, Kiselevich from Florida for a 2021 7th-round pick. Matt Hendricks from the Minnesota Wild for a 2020 7th-round pick. I think that was that all? Was that their moves for the day? I believe that was their moves for the day.
That sounds about right.
So Winnipeg's pretty busy. Was pretty busy, but nobody as busy as balls of steel, Mr. Jarmo Kekalainen with the Columbus Blue Jackets, who basically said, "Fuck it, we're going all in, and we're gonna roll with everything we got."
If I'm gonna lose Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky, we're gonna go down swinging, boys.
And it all basically started with Matt Duchene on the 22nd. The Matt Duchene Bergman trade with Ottawa. So yeah, I think their conditional first round pick is if he resigns.
I believe so. Let me check.
Let me see if I can pull that up really quick. But so they started with the Matt Duchene deal. Now they then
I just want to talk about real quick because I'm on Cap Friendly and I'm looking at Columbus right now. Columbus is without their first, second, fourth, fifth, and sixth this year. They have Calgary 7th and their own 3rd. Next year, Columbus is without their 2nd, 3rd, and that's it. There's an attachment. Okay, here we go. Next year's first for Columbus. If Matt Duchene resigns with Columbus, Ottawa will receive Columbus's 2020 first-round pick. If the 2019 pick moves to 2020 as a result of the lottery and Duchesne signs with Columbus, the 2020 conditional pick would then move to 2021. If Duchesne does not re-sign with Columbus, no pick is exchanged. So that is the condition on Columbus's first overall next year.
Yeah,
kind of wild when you think about it.
I mean, you know, like you said, Jarmo is basically all in, and he's just, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, if we get bounced out of the first round, I'd probably lose my job. So I'm gonna lose it either way. I might as well go all in and go full balls here. And I mean, talk about balls to steal. And I think, you know, it's a good thing for a couple of things. It says a lot to the organization, the fans. It basically says, hey, we're not just going to fold in and pack it in, because they're not in the driver's seat at all right now, playoff spot-wise. I mean, they're very vulnerable where they are. They're tied with Montreal, and, you know, they're third in the Metropolitan right now at 73 points. They're 4 back of Washington, who is only 2 back now of the Islanders. Granted, they have games in hand there, but they're basically, you know, Carolina's right there with Montreal. Well, actually, they're kind of they're a little bit solidifying themselves a little bit, but being 1 point back from Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh's right now on the outside looking in, and you have to think that. I mean, I could see Pittsburgh missing the playoffs. I could, but you have to think that Pittsburgh's not going to miss the playoffs. If you had to put money on it right now, here and now, are you putting
I'm putting money against the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Are you putting Montreal and Carolina in over Pittsburgh?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't trust the Penguins' blue line. I don't trust their goaltending. I was never a Matt Murray fan to begin with. So I mean, I do not.
The season game.
I do not believe in them.
Game of the season's tomorrow night for Columbus. It's Pittsburgh in Columbus tomorrow night. To say that game is going to be huge is a huge understatement. That game is going to be absolutely ridiculous. That could be the telltale sign right there of how things are going to roll through the final 19 games that are left in the season here. So basically, Jarmo's saying, hey, we're battling to stay alive. We're in it. We want that matchup.
Oh, sorry.
They're going for it. And holy crap. This could blow up so big in the Columbus Blue.
You know what? I don't think it could blow up as bad as you want to make it seem, to be honest. I think if Panarin walks, I think if Columbus pushes hard, and let's say, you know, they make the playoffs but get ousted in the first round, I think Columbus is showing that they're building something, or at least they're trying to build something, and I think they could re-sign Ryan Dzingel and Matt Duchesne in the offseason with the money that they were going to give to Panarin. So, at which point, all is not lost.
No, but I will say this: where it's a gamble is you have the potential to lose all those guys, and then you've got nothing. You've got nothing in the hopper. You've got nothing in the hopper for draft or any leverage to try to get anything. I mean, you
I don't think they're going to lose everybody.
I'd be surprised.
I think
priority one out of this postseason.
I think priority one for Jarmo and company is they have to re-sign Matt Duchesne. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, that might sway. Who knows? That may sway Bobrovsky. That may sway Panarin. I mean, it may sway it where Panarin says, "You know what? I don't want to go anywhere else." Because
I don't think Panarin. I don't think that'll be. I think Panarin is dead set on leaving. Panarin just strikes me as the guy. I don't think it's anything wrong with. I don't think it's anything wrong with the hockey team. I think it's the market. I think he just wants to play in a big city in a big market. You got to remember he played in Chicago. You know, so I think there is something. I think it's more. It more has to do with where the team's located, not necessarily the team itself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's kind of gone out of his way to talk about, you know, market and all of that. So I think you're right. I think if they, you know, a couple things is they got to win a playoff round here at some point. You've given Tortorella a ton of tools to work with offensively now. They did go out and get a defenseman. So they did even pick up a defenseman.
They brought the jam. They injected some jam with Adam McQuaid.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, and I think didn't they pick up another defenseman as well?
Oh,
I believe they grabbed someone else. Well, they picked up Bergman from Ottawa.
Yeah, but they traded Bergman to the Rangers for Adam McQuaid.
But then they flipped him for Adam McQuaid. But then I thought there was another move that they made. No, there wasn't. Yeah, no, they didn't have any other. They didn't have any other move. But yeah, I mean, you know, McQuaid could help him out. You know, talk about another veteran presence, a guy who's been deep in playoff runs, a guy that does not back down from anything. I think he would be, you know, if he was a little bit better of a defenseman, he'd be a Torts favorite for sure.
I think he's going to be a Torts favorite regardless.
But yeah, I think he'll fit in well there with Columbus.
I can see before the year ending, Adam McQuaid is playing on the second pair with Zach Werenski.
Well, I thought it was important that, you know, yeah, it's great they're going out and they're getting all this forward and all that, but they needed to do something else on the backside. So they kind of addressed what they needed to do. And it's kind of, I don't want to compare it to the 94 Rangers because I don't think this team was on the cusp of anything where, you know, the 94 Rangers were on the cusp. But this is a team that kind of is going about as bold, almost as bold as Neil Smith did in 94.
They're saying, look, we're going for it this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically saying, hey, we don't care that there's, you know, 6 or 7 or 8 teams ahead of us in the pecking order for winning a cup. We're gonna make some moves.
Going for it.
We're gonna make some moves and we're gonna make some noise and you know, ride or die, bitches. Is basically what they're doing, and that's why I say Jarmo's got some balls of steel because, like I said, you know, unlike the Rangers back in '94, and again, I'm saying, you know, Jarmo's being about as bold as Neil Smith there.
The Rangers were the best team in hockey in '94, and they
did what they did, and you know, Columbus.
And they gutted their roster.
So talk about a little bit bigger balls, and talking about gutting a roster. Mike Gartner was also at the Doan ceremony last night.
Well, you know,
so
I mean. But you want to talk about how big Jarmo's balls are? The man called up the Rangers reportedly.
No, they said it wasn't true.
Oh, wasn't true.
I'm telling you, it was San Jose. I'm telling you, it was San Jose. It was San Jose, or like you said, Calgary. You said earlier in our text with Sean, it was Calgary. I guarantee
I firmly believe it had to be. It had to be a goalie needy team. It had to be
San Jose or Calgary. Like we said on the Hank episode 36. All right, San
30.
Jose.
Hank, where's 30? You idiot.
30, sorry, I'm thinking of Zuccarello, man.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Oh, okay. You're not number 30.
But you know, yeah, like I said on the Hank episode. You know, San Jose, you look at Winnipeg, Vegas, Calgary, a lot of those teams, Winnipeg, all their goaltending duos, much better than what San Jose is putting out right now with Martin Jones. And he is just not having a good year. And I get it, it might just be a one-off thing, but he is not having a good year. And that could cost San Jose a shot at the cup.
And it doesn't make sense with the team in front of them.
It doesn't, but it makes sense when they're bailing them out by pumping, you know. I mean, Brent Burns is going to close in on what, 90 freaking points this year? I mean, the guy's an animal. I mean, you basically have, you know, Brent Burns out on the ice. You've got a defenseman and an extra forward. Every time.
Not only does Brent Burns play like an animal. Not only does Brent Burns play like an animal, he looks like one too.
Yeah. and he owns a ranch. He basically he owns like a, not necessarily a ranch like a Shane Doan type of ranch, but he basically owns a. He's got like a nature preserve, I think, in his whatever. There was some video I saw of it, which was pretty cool. But
yeah, but did you know that Taze has a lake?
All right, if I had to say,
don't ignore me.
Fucking God.
You son of a bitch.
All right, so and then obviously the other trade with the Rangers that happened was the Zuccarello for Dallas, for the 2 picks, and then the 2 ridiculously unrealistic conditional picks, which is what I was giving you a hard time about. Not necessarily the trade in detail, but the conditions of Dallas making it to the Western Conference Final.
The second condition is not unthinkable.
It's not unthinkable.
Dallas is going to have $18 million in cap space this summer. They could most definitely re-sign Zook in the summer. I also
wouldn't be surprised if Zuccarello says I'm going back to Europe either. So I don't know.
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, it doesn't sound like I don't know. This is just me. I don't necessarily think, a lot of people are saying he'll come back. I don't know. I don't know if he is.
No, I think the door's pretty much shut on that one.
And it's the same thing even like with Kevin Hayes, the talk, and I mean, I know you're not going to sit there and say, "Oh, I'll be back after the season. I'm going to re-sign," but I wouldn't be surprised if neither of these guys come back.
No, they're not. Once they're gone, I think they're staying gone.
I think that's one of those things where it's like you fire the coach and that's done. Really?
What? Really? What?
We're live. We're broadcasting live, and Nick is
what
over
are you
here.
Talking about?
Nick is over here.
What are you talking about?
Doing Mr. Serious Face, Snapchatting. Who are you Snapchatting right now?
I'm not Snapchatting.
We're doing a live show here. We're doing a live show.
Yeah.
And you are over there.
That nobody's watching. That nobody's watching, by the way.
Actually, there were 6 people on before. Who were watching and probably just saw you Snapchatting and were just like, screw this shit. I'm getting off. I can't do this.
I wasn't even Snapchatting, but continue.
Okay. Well, then what are you on Tinder? I hope you
What is wrong with you?
I hope you weren't on Grindr. I mean, if you were, I mean, hey, whatever. It's 20.
You're a fucking idiot. You are a fucking idiot.
I'm just saying.
Seriously, the next time I see you, I'm going to give you the biggest ass whooping of your life.
Whatever you do. I mean, hey, you're our guy. So
I'm gonna punch you in the face as hard as I can.
Boat.
I'm gonna punch you in the face as hard as I can the next time I see you.
What, with your Phantom alcoholic beverage?
Oh, you're going to get a fucking Budweiser to the head.
So just so you know, I did not win the 50-50 raffle at the Coyotes game last night, which cracked over almost I think it was like 115 or 116 by the end of it. I didn't crack it, so there is no Vegas.
That's a shame. I was hoping you were going to win so you could give me like 10 grand.
I was going to, well, no, but I was going to, if that did happen, we were going to throw a pretty wild Vegas party next year, but that's not going to happen now. So.
Oh, let's go. Strippers and cocaine, baby. Oh, yeah. Charlie Murphy!
Unbelievable. So, all right, now that this has gone off the rails, let's talk about some winners.
Titties.
You know what? Let's talk about some winners and losers.
Titties.
Hey, Edmonton is beating Nashville right now. Okay.
Okay.
Derek Brassard will make his debut for the Colorado Avalanche tonight because Florida was in Colorado when the trade went down, so that's pretty cool. Pretty unique situation.
I'm all about the revenge.
I'm surprised. Austin Matthews, I don't know if you saw this tweet, but Austin Matthews is the first Toronto Maple Leaf forward to score 30 goals in his first 3 seasons.
Doug Gilmour and Wendell Clark are trash.
Matt Sundin is shit.
Matt Sundin, Daryl Sittler, Dave Keon, they all suck.
Couldn't get it done. They all are garbage. All right, so
they're all trash.
All right, so winners, losers. I
hope there's some Leaf fans that are watching this that just heard me say that and their heads explode.
Well, they're angry. Toronto fans are angry about everything. They're never happy. It doesn't matter. They're never happy. Austin Matthews signs a hometown discount, basically gives them a discount, and basically gives Toronto help in their potential retaining of Mitch Marner, and fuck Matthews, he's not worth this money. Like, okay. All right. So, hey, back on track here. All right.
God.
I've got 2 losers. All right. I've got 2. And one is the Minnesota Wild. And this is stemming all the way back to the Nino Niederreiter trade. All right. I don't know what they were doing, but I think they're going to shoot themselves in the foot, and I think they're another team that's not going to make the playoffs. If I had to put my money on it right now, and this week is a very big week for the Arizona Coyotes, I'm going to go bold here. I'm sticking with it that Arizona's going to find a way. Arizona and Colorado are going to be the final two wild card spots, or Arizona St. Louis, because Colorado may run crazy here the way they've been playing lately. All right, Minnesota's a loser. Dallas, definitely a loser, because their answer was to get Matt Zuccarello, and for 2 periods it looked like, holy shit, Dallas hit the home run here, and now they are back to square one. And now they've got to basically hope that they could maintain where they are and get in, and that Zuccarello will find a way to get back either for very late in the season or the beginning of the playoffs. So I got to say that. To me, the winners, I don't necessarily know if I will say Vegas is a winner, because even though they did get Mark Stone, which is a huge pickup for Vegas, I still think Vegas needed help on the defensive side, and that's what we talked about in our last episode. But I will say, I think Colorado answers some depth. Winnipeg, if you want to talk about depth, Winnipeg, Colorado, Winnipeg, or didn't I just say that? Winnipeg, Colorado, and Nashville.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Winnipeg, Colorado, Nashville. Fantastic deadline day. Fantastic deadline for them. Do you got nothing there?
I was waiting to see if you were done or not. So
the pause.
Okay. Sometimes people pause when they're.
I did like that Montreal did
when they're collecting it.
So people may say that Montreal was a loser because they didn't do anything. I think Montreal was a winner. I think Carolina was a winner because Carolina said no to trading Ferland, which tells you they are rolling for it. And
I think Carolina has the potential to be a loser if they lose Ferland come July 1st.
I think so, but when you're 8-2 in your last 10 and you're barking right down the playoffs, and I know they're probably not going to catch Toronto for third in the Atlantic, but I think they're getting in. I think they're going to be
Carolina's not in the Atlantic, they're in the Metro.
Columbus, never mind. Oh, see, guys,
God. Do you see what I deal with every week? Like, do you guys now see what I have to deal with? Okay, it's why God gave me such broad shoulders so I can carry this.
It's too many pucks to the head lately. I took like 3 shots off the dome last game. I'm feeling the effects of it.
All right, my winners and losers at the trade deadline.
Yes,
this is pretty easy. Pretty easy. I'm gonna start with my losers. The Vegas Golden Knights.
How are you gonna put them as a loser?
As much as I love Mark Stone, and I love Mark Stone, I really do. I'm gonna have a lot of fun watching Pacioretty, Stastny, and Mark Stone as a line.
That is gonna be a sick line.
They don't have a blue line, and they traded their best defensive prospect away.
Yeah.
Who, in my opinion, has the ability to be a 1D or at least a number 2 on your blue line.
I do.
That's how good I think Eric Enstrom is.
I do think they're going to go all in for trying to get Erik Karlsson in the summer. And maybe them picking up Mark Stone helped them in that category.
As much as I love it, I love Mark Stone.
Yeah, I'm with you. They didn't address the defense. I'm with you.
I feel like, yeah, you got a lot more. You got another scorer and another dynamite player. He's a great winger. You didn't get what you needed, and I think you didn't get what ailed you in the postseason. I thought, adding Pacioretty, was more than enough. I thought they should have focused their sights on D, but maybe George McPhee knows better than me. So But I will say this, for an expansion team who was like, it's all about the future and everything like that, they've given away a lot of futures in the first 2 years. So I'm interested to see, what's going to happen to Vegas in the next 2 to 3 years. They're my first loser. St. Louis Blues, you are my next loser. Even though we said last week, cautiously buy and, you don't want to give up the farm. I feel like there were some deals to be had, and they just didn't make them, and getting Del Zotto. So St. Louis is pretty much saying, look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're rolling with what we got. Good on you.
I don't blame them. I don't necessarily blame them.
Biggest loser to me, and I have two. I have another loser before I get to my biggest loser. The New York Islanders. Lou, don't know what you're doing, pal. I understand not wanting to sell guys like Bellows and Hosang and Wallstrom and Anthony Beauvillier and all these young guys that the Islanders have, but there comes the point where, you're telling me that the Islanders couldn't match the package that Vegas gave up for Mark Stone?
I think you're. I'm
I think
surprised
the Islanders,
that they kept Hosang, but I think they destroyed Hosang's image so much that they weren't going to.
But you're telling me you wouldn't have traded Devin Taves or maybe Adam Pelech plus maybe another mid-tier guy and a second-round pick?
I don't think they wanted to touch anybody on the current roster. I don't think they wanted to touch anyone, and I don't necessarily blame them for that. But yeah, look,
I feel like if the Islanders could have added Mark Stone, they actually could have been a legitimate threat. Because as this team is currently constituted, I am not terrified of playing the Islanders in the play. I think the Jackets are now better than the Islanders. I still think Washington, without doing anything, is still better than the Islanders. There's just... Because here's the thing. In the playoffs, Casey Cizikas and Cal Clutterbuck and all these guys that are scoring goals right now for the Islanders, they're not going to be able to produce at the level they're producing right now. You're going to need that game-breaking offensive talent. They have one in Barzell, but you need to pair somebody with them. So I think the Islanders are really going to regret not pulling... Because I think the Islanders this year, they probably could have made it to the conference final. I think if they would have added...
I don't think they would get past Carolina if that's the first-round matchup.
With the way the Islanders can defend and the goaltending that they've had so far this year, if they were able to add a guy like Stone, they would have been able to make a run to the conference final.
Maybe.
In my opinion.
Maybe.
In my opinion.
But I don't think... I think if their first-round matchup was Carolina, I don't think they would beat the Carolina Hurricanes in a 7-game series.
But to me, my biggest loser... And I've been pimping this team for God knows how long. Calgary, Brad Treliving, what are you doing, baby? Come on, man. Just
apparently the ask was way too high.
I can understand that to a point. Nashville got a lot better. Winnipeg, by virtue of just adding Kevin Hayes, Winnipeg got a whole lot better because of how Kevin Hayes plays. He's going to be paired with Patrick Laine. Kevin Hayes dishing to Laine that's a nasty little 1-2 combo. So, and getting Nick Ehlers back healthy, Winnipeg's second line is about to become very explosive. So, you watch the moves that Nashville and Winnipeg made, who are your chief competition out west, and you sat on your hands.
I think they called the Rangers and tried to get Henrik Lundqvist. I think that was what when Mark Stone fell through, I think they picked up the phone and were hitting on Gordon to say,
why not go for Jimmy Howard, who was clearly available?
Is Jimmy Howard that big of an upgrade?
I think he's better than Mike Smith.
I don't disagree with you there, but is he enough? I don't think he would be enough.
I think with the team in front of him, I think he would have been okay.
Right, but you're saying okay. But what was Ken Holland? I think Holland's asking price on Jimmy Howard was probably too high as well, and you're not going to give You're not going to give it up. You're not going to give up what you're going to give. I think you could get Henrik Lundqvist at play, you'd give up whatever. For Calgary, you're giving up the farm to do it.
I'm disappointed in the Calgary Flames and Brett Treliving. I really am. I thought Calgary, with the way their top line is, if they could have added a second line winger or center to just spread out that depth a little bit more, I thought Calgary is a team that could really make some noise and make a deep playoff run. And I'm talking Western Conference Final, Stanley Cup Final. That's how much I really like the Calgary Flames this year.
Yeah, I think the road is going to get a little hard. I think the road gets a little harder now.
Yeah, they're going to definitely be climbing uphill now the rest of the way. But for my winners, New York Rangers, big winners. You go out, you add 3 draft picks, potentially a 4th. If Winnipeg wins the Cup, you get a 4th rounder for Kevin Hayes. So you add 3 draft picks, and you add Brandon Lemieux, who, tough, hard-nosed player, a little bit of skill. So if he plays like his dad, when the Rangers get back to the playoffs, if he's still on the team, Brendan Lemieux will probably be a nice little playoff performer for the New York Rangers. So that's a move that I really like what Jeff Gorton did again for the second year. Or actually, they added more than 3 draft picks. They added 5 with the potential to be 6, counting the McQuaid trade. So I really like what the Rangers did again at the trade deadline. I think Gorton had a phenomenal deadline 2 years in a row. Personally,
I think it all depends on what happens this offseason. I think it all depends on what it translates into in the offseason. At the end of the day, that's just my 2 things on it, is what happens in the offseason.
I agree. Look, I think the Rangers have 10 picks coming up in this upcoming draft.
They do,
I believe. I don't think the Rangers are going to be making all 10 picks this year at the draft. I think you're going to see some of these get packaged, and I think they're going to look for some NHL-ready talent.
But I think in that case, and I know we were going back and forth and going crazy on this, but I think if that's the case, then you're seeing Kreider gone. You're seeing Kreider
I disagree.
Gone.
I disagree. I think
what else are you going to do?
If the Rangers are going to get aggressive and they're going to look to reload this summer, and in terms of reloading, I mean adding, if he hits the market, Erik Karlsson, adding Artemi Panarin. If you're going to reload and get that aggressive, and I think they're going to make a trade for a defenseman too, I think you're going to see the Rangers bring in 2 or 3 defensemen this summer.
But if you're making that trade, what are you giving up besides the draft picks?
It all depends. You could give up Libor Hayek. If you're not sold on Libor Hayek, they have prospects now. They have a farm you can deal from. So I think, it all depends on what the Rangers' plan is. I think if you were really going to be, if they were looking at this as a 3-4 year rebuild, you would have seen Chris Kreider get moved today, because the package you would have gotten for Chris Kreider would have been astronomical.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily. But again, I think a lot of teams were in on it, and the asking price was too high.
I don't.
But like I said, I think if you see a team like say Winnipeg, for instance, Winnipeg goes in, they get to the second round, they get bounced out, or they get to the conference final and they get bounced out. Do they look at and say, you know what, maybe we should have went and tried to get both, and maybe they come back to the table?
I don't think they come back to the table, and if they come back to the table, they're not giving you Christian Vesalainen or Jack Roslovic or anybody else.
They're not going to give those guys or Appleton. I know those are the guys that are part of their team, but
right.
But
so
maybe you're Calgary.
If you're Calgary, again, they're not going to give up Oscar Shillington or Rasmus Anderson or any of these guys that you're going to want for Chris Kreider. They're not going to give up if they don't have him for another year. That's why this year was so crucial to trade. If you were going to trade Kreider, because it's 2 playoff runs that you're getting with him. It's the reason why the Rangers got 2 picks plus 2 players for Ryan McDonough. They got 4 assets for McDonough last year, and it's because they were giving up. The Lightning were getting 2 kicks at the can with Ryan McDonough. That's the whole reason why teams, you're seeing it around the league. No teams are giving up blue chip prospects. The only reason why I guarantee you Vegas gave up Eric Brandstrom is because they knew they had a sign-in trade with Mark Stone. Because I guarantee you, if there was no assurance that Stone was going to re-sign, Eric Brandstrom would not have been going the other way. It probably would have been more picks and, maybe a B-level prospect.
And I get that, but if you're talking this retool and they're hitting, and then you're talking, essentially the Rangers are going for it within the next 2 to 3 years, realistically. You're either bringing in, like you said, you're bringing in Panarin, you're bringing in Carlson, who knows what else you're doing. You need to bring in elite, immediate impact players to play along those guys. Where are you making those deals if you're trading some of our... You get what I'm saying? Like, a lot of our prospects,
I think
you're not rating them all that high, so you also have to hope.
They're going to be expecting Hedl to take a bigger step with more ice time.
Well, right, so that's what I think. You're hoping... There's a lot of hope there. It's not a reload where you're going in and you're Winnipeg by any stretch. You're having to hope that Kravtsov comes over and he lights it up right off the bat. Buchnevich turns a big corner. Hedl turns a big corner. Anderson, steps up and fills into what a lot of expectations are. There's a lot of big what ifs there because there's not a lot of play that the Rangers have as far as ammo in the hopper.
I'm just wondering, I really feel like going off of what Gorton said because, he said today that we have picks, we have space, to allow us to get really creative.
Well, they do.
So that to me is telling me, okay, they're really looking, we're getting close here to, all right, we're going to reload with Hank for one last run at this whole thing.
Well, I think that may also be reloading to move up higher in the draft to get up into, maybe they're looking to move a bunch of picks to get up into, additional top 10.
Possibly, I think, it all depends. I have a feeling because I don't think Hank would. My whole way of thinking is this: if Hank didn't see that he was going to get one last kick at the can here before he retired, I feel like he'd be a little bit more open to waiving his no move.
I don't know if I don't know if I agree or disagree there. I almost kind of get the sense that Hank, the cup is almost secondary to Hank. I look at Hank kind of similar to how I look at Shane Doan. I think Hank, it's more important for him to stay in New York, and he wants to be a New York Ranger for life, because at the end of the day, he will go down as arguably the greatest Ranger to ever wear the uniform. Unfortunately, it may be the greatest Ranger to ever wear a uniform, but not win a cup.
I truly believe he wants to win a Stanley Cup as a Ranger.
Right.
And I truly believe...
I think it's the Rangers first, Stanley Cup second. It has to be with the Rangers. Otherwise, he would have walked away. Especially after this year, and after what just happened with Zuccarello, he would have waived it. If you've got a Calgary or you've got somebody calling and you've got a legitimate shot to go win the Cup, because look at it, any of those teams that probably called, if it was San Jose... if it's San Jose, for instance, and I know they got a ton of money tied up in Jones, but they've got a lot of money available. You're going with Carlson, potentially. Carlson stays. You definitely have, your window is right now. You go to Calgary, the window is potentially right now. There's opportunities there. Maybe if the Columbus thing was true, I wouldn't necessarily say, yeah, that's where I'm going to roll the dice, because it's a crapshoot. If you're going to waive it, if he was going to waive it, he probably would have done it today. I think so. After the situation that happened with Zuccarello, he would have waived it today.
I agree. But I just think I have a feeling that there's a reason why he's not waiving, and I think it goes a little bit deeper than I just want to be a Ranger. But
I think it's New York. I think it's his lifestyle. I think he's defined as a New Yorker. I mean, he fits the bill 110%. I think there's a lot more to it than just being a New York Ranger. I think there's the whole lifestyle and everything that he is. I mean, the guy just screams New York. You look at Henrik Lundqvist and he screams New York.
But finishing up my other two, big winners, the Winnipeg Jets and the Nashville Predators. And also to add one more to my losers, the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think you had to get better. I think they needed to make a move. I think not getting Adam McQuaid, in a sense, I think it really hurts them because I don't like their blue line after Morgan Riley. So I don't think you're beating the Boston Bruins with the lineup you currently have. As good as they are offensively, and I think they are very good offensively. I think they're one of the best offensive teams we've ever seen. But I do not believe. I think there's a psychological edge that the Bruins hold on the Leafs, even though different players and everything like that. I do believe there's something to be said that even though the players change, the outcome somehow remains the same. So I do believe that the Bruins. If the Bruins meet the Leafs are going to have a problem in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I don't think it's pretty much shaping up that it's going to be that, unless they fall to the wild card. I mean, but they have to fall 5 points down for Montreal to jump over them. I so would love to see Toronto Montreal in the first round. That would be such an awesome first round matchup.
I'm all in on the Leafs Bruins. I'm a big fan because I think you're going to get fireworks.
2 episodes ago, you said you didn't want to see that.
I know, but I thought about it since then, and I actually think we're going to get we're going to get some real fireworks. No
podcast.
No, I think we're going to.
Of this podcast.
Okay, I was there. I know what I said. I was the one that said it. Okay,
I didn't say that.
It. Yeah. No, I do think going back now, just looking at the two teams, the history and everything like that, I think we're as much as I would like to see Pajama Boy take on the Islanders in Nassau in the first round. I would really love to see Toronto Boston.
That would be awesome.
I would be all in on Pajama.
Talk about a storyline for a series.
I would be all in on Pajama Boy.
Imagine if the Islanders knocked out the Maple Leafs in the first round.
Let's just talk about it. This Thursday. The Leafs go to Long Island to face the Islanders.
Yeah.
And you know what? If the Islanders were actually smart and intelligent, they would make that night Pajama Night, where the first 1,000 fans get free New York Islanders pajamas. I swear, if I was in the PR department, that's exactly what I would have done.
So
PJ Night.
There was actually one other team that I wanted to add as a winner because they made an addition during the trade deadline. They didn't have to do anything at all. They just had to activate an injured player, and that was Jordan Staal for the Carolina Hurricanes, who looked very good in his first game back with Carolina. So I got to say, Carolina's come a long way in the last 18 months.
And they're a team that I said in our preseason predictions they were going to be in the playoffs, and you laughed at me.
You did, and I did laugh at you. I did, and I am right now eating crow. But that was also before they addressed a lot of their issues too. So, I
told you they were a team to watch for.
Before they absolutely fleeced Minnesota for Nito Niederreiter. I don't understand how that went. But all right, to wrap up the biggest, to wrap it up, in Dave Chappelle style. All right, wrap it up.
Y'all got any more of them trades?
All right. No, there were no more trades. There's no more trades that we're worth talking about. But as constructed
Thank you, Red Balls. Cocaine in the can, baby.
As constructed today, the battle for the playoffs is getting tighter. In the Eastern Conference, it is only one team. Buffalo has fallen out. They're not mathematically out of it. Neither is Philadelphia, or even the Rangers for that matter. But the Pittsburgh Penguins are the only team really that's still in a battle with Montreal, Carolina, and Columbus for the wild card. I am hoping that it is Montreal, Carolina, and Columbus that get in, and Pittsburgh that has to sit out. I would love to see that. But in the Western Conference, it is still just absolute insanity. Even though Chicago has fallen a little back with losers of 2 in a row, the Coyotes are streaking again. They are streaking, and thankfully not as bad as gritty streaking at the whatever the Philadelphia Eagles stadium is, Lincoln Financial, I think, or Lincoln Field or whatever. The Coyotes have won 3 in a row, including a humongous win over the Jets last night.
Oh, just to point out how bad today was for the Calgary Flames, evidently they were in talks with Minnesota over Jason Zucker, and that deal flamed out. So
I like what you did.
Yeah.
I like what you did there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, so so the wild card race, really, in the Western Conference, and just to put things into perspective here a little bit, Nick, Vegas is sitting at 69 points right now.
Nice.
Vegas has not done well. All right,
Vegas might be getting
stoned.
Total.
Vegas might be getting stoned. I don't know if you saw the tweet from the
Vegas
Golden Knights, and then did you see their follow up?
I saw, but I don't remember what
this was. What question mark? It's legal here.
Oh, there you go. I mean, Kevin Hayes is probably upset he didn't get traded to Vegas.
Way to go, Vegas Twitter, Vegas Golden Knights Twitter people. But all right, the reason why I say that is because a few weeks ago we were saying the Pacific is locked up. All right.
Oh, it's locked up tight. And there's no
6 points back of Vegas.
That's okay.
With 2 games in hand. 2 games in hand.
That's okay.
Could you imagine?
It's not happening. So get it out.
I know it's not going to happen, but
right. So get it out of your mind.
I did go bold and say Arizona would make the playoffs, and I'm sticking with it. So you've got Dallas at 67 points, Minnesota 1 point behind them, barely holding on to the Colorado Avalanche, who are streaking, and I guess I shouldn't say barely because Minnesota's on a 3-game win streak themselves, but Colorado's on a 4-game win streak. Arizona's on a 3-game win streak. All within striking distance of Minnesota. 3 points back are the Coyotes. 1 point back are the Avalanche. 5 points back is Chicago. So Chicago, who went on an absolute tear, is starting to falter a bit. So we've got some really damn good hockey coming down the pipe here.
That really bad start, that really terrible start by the Hawks is going to catch them.
And I almost wonder if they should have never fired, well, they shouldn't have fired Joe Quenneville, because I wonder if they would have been able to right the ship a little bit sooner and fix whatever problems they had instead of it playing out as long as it did. But we will never know. You know who else was a loser? The Edmonton Oilers.
They're a perpetual loser, so
they are a habitual loser. The Anaheim Ducks were losers. Their biggest move was Del Zotto.
No, their biggest move was shipping out Brandon Montour for a prospect and a first,
or trading Brandon Montour. But
so they weren't losers. I think you know what? I think they're starting to acknowledge that they need to look towards the future. That you got to start breaking this down.
That number 1 overall. They need to get that number 1 overall away from LA and Ottawa. So. All right, everybody, that is all we've got for episode 31. The Carey Price, break your knees, break your back, break your neck.
Thank God Chris Kreider didn't run into us during this episode. I was actually very scared of that happening.
By Busta Rhymes.
I would like to thank Alexei Yemelin for not tripping Chris Kreider into us.
Ooh, look at that. All right, so we will be back on our regularly scheduled platform next week with episode 32. I don't know who that will be yet. The 30s will be interesting up until
Antti Raanta.
Another dude. The guy's he's inactive.
Raanta.
He's inactive.
Raanta.
He's inactive.
Raanta. Raanta.
We will see you next time.